Hello friends, with so many companies starting to talk about next-gen hardware, it felt like only a matter of time before Valve got dragged into the conversation too. And now, here we are. A rumor has been making the rounds that Valve could be planning to release the Steam Deck 2 in 2028, assuming of course the current RAM and SSD shortages don't get even worse. This came from hardware leaker Kepler L2 on NeoGAF, where he pushed back on the idea of a 2029 launch and suggested 2028 is more likely. He also mentioned that even if the device gets delayed, that might not be such a bad thing. Unlike something like Microsoft's Project Helix or a possible PlayStation Handheld, the Steam Deck could keep evolving over time, and Valve could use that extra time to push the specs even further. Now obviously none of this is official, so take it with a healthy amount of skepticism. There is still no hard evidence from Valve that confirms any of it. That said, it does line up with what Valve has said before. They've talked multiple times about wanting a proper generational leap in performance, and they've always framed the Steam Deck as more of a long-term platform and multi-generational product in general. And honestly, by 2028 that would be about a 6-year gap from the original model, which sounds pretty reasonable for a true next-gen jump. Personally, I'm just happy Valve seems to still be in the handheld game at all. With all the hardware issues lately, I wouldn't have been shocked if they had decided to slow down or even step away for a while. What also makes this interesting is that Microsoft and Sony are both circling the handheld space too now. So if delays and shortages keep stacking up, we could end up with 3 major handheld launches landing around the same time. And if that happens, Valve might actually have a slight advantage. Again, if this rumor about them upgrading this new device as they go is to be believed. So here's the question. If you had to pick one right now, what would you go for? A Steam Deck 2, an Xbox handheld, or a PS6? Sticking with handheld rumors for a second, there is also some new speculations about Sony's next hardware. Sony still hasn't officially announced anything, but according to more insider posting on NeoGAF, a possible PS6 handheld has already been compared to both Switch 2 and Xbox Series S. And based on those claims, the handheld's GPU could be a little ahead of the Series S in rasterization, a high-speed rendering process of converting 3D vector graphics into 2D pixels, and way ahead when it comes to ray tracing and path tracing. If that's true, then sure, that makes sense. It is supposed to be next-gen after all. But again, this is still just a rumor. We don't even know for sure whether the PlayStation 6 Handheld will be a standalone system in the first place. And honestly, I'm not even sure the raw specs are the most important part here. I mean, yeah, power matters if you care about having the strongest hardware possible. But for Sony, I think this kind of a device matters more as an ecosystem play than anything else. With Microsoft and others trying to become this all-in-one gaming platforms that keeps users locked in across devices, Sony can't really afford to fall behind. So the real question isn't just how powerful is it, it is does it keep PlayStation users inside Sony's ecosystem longer? Because even if the leaked specs turn out to be wrong, that pressure on Sony is still very real. And even if this handheld ends up being stronger than Xbox in some areas, that alone won't make it successful. It still needs strong compatibility and a unified environment around it. But now I'm curious, for you personally though, is performance the deciding factor when choosing a new hardware? Now, it's been way too long since we got a genuinely good Lord of the Rings game, so this next rumor definitely caught my attention. According to Insider Gaming, Crystal Dynamics is reportedly working on a new unannounced Lord of the Rings project. The report says the game is tied to a deal with the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, and it's worth roughly $100 million. With that, sources close to development claim the studio has been working on it for a while already. Apparently it's been developed alongside Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis and Tomb Raider Catalyst. Although it still sounds like this Lord of the Rings title is a long way off. However, officially both Crystal Dynamics and Embracer Group declined to comment. And look, I would love for this to be true, I really would. But I've got to admit, Crystal Dynamics being the studio behind it makes me a little nervous. Not because they're a bad studio, they absolutely can make great games. But they've also been hit by 4 rounds of layoffs recently, and at some point you have to wonder how much one team can realistically handle. If a studio is already stretched thin, asking them to juggle multiple big projects at once doesn't exactly scream confidence. Of course, with already announced Tomb Raider games, it means that it will be more than a little bit till we see anything specific with this project. And it makes sense for Embracer to start using the IP, as they probably spend a hefty amount of money on it. And the demand is still there, I think. I doubt that I'm the only one who loves this franchise and would like nothing more than to see a new game. But let's be honest, Lord of the Rings really doesn't need another mediocre adaptation right now. Between the Gollum disaster and a TV series that still divides people, this franchise could really use a win. So yeah, I'm excited about the idea of a new game, but I'm not fully sold on this being the right studio for it. I mean, am I being too harsh, or does that concern make sense? Also, quick thing, if you don't know who I am, my name is Alex, I'm a game producer, and I'm here to help you get caught up on everything that's going on in the video game industry. The First Descendant is coming up on its 2nd anniversary, and honestly, the vibe around it is not looking great. It looks like even the developers no longer think that this game can last. In a recent briefing, Nexon CEO more or less admitted the game exploded early and then lost momentum very fast. He pointed out that it hit 10 million players in just 7 days, and even topped 250,000 concurrent players on Steam at one point, which is massive. But according to him, the game didn't have the retention systems to keep people around. And worse, some of its biggest issues apparently can be fixed with simple patches. They would require much deeper changes to the game's design. His conclusion was pretty blunt. The game just doesn't have staying power, and while it is sad to see him saying that about his own game, he might be right. Recent concurrent numbers are hovering just about 5,000 players in a 24-hour period, and the reviews are still mixed nearly 2 years in. For a free-to-play live service game, those are rough signs. To be fair, it's not like the developers didn't try. This included some of the most audacious and very revealing outfits that were almost bordering on being not safe for work, if you know what I mean. But attention alone does not build a long-lasting game. It's not shutting down right now, obviously, but when even the CEO is publicly saying things like this, you do start wondering how much longer they're willing to keep pushing before they decide it's over. A few weeks ago we talked about Shinji Mikami and his new studio. Well, now there is a major update. Shift Up, the studio behind Stellar Blade, has announced it's acquiring Unbound Studio. According to the official press release, both sides seem very happy about this deal. Mikami described it as a new partnership built on a strong synergy between himself and Shift Up's CEO, and said they're going to work together to create games that live up to fans' expectations. Honestly, this is a pretty interesting move. Right now, Unbound doesn't really have a released game, a proven franchise, or much of a public roadmap at all. What it does have is only Shinji Mikami's name, a team that's still coming together, and some big AAA ambitions. So this feels like a bet on potential more than anything else. Still, with Stellar Blade being a big success and Shift Up already talking about a follow-up, they clearly have the confidence and probably the money to take that bet. And for Mikami, this is a strong position to be in. Having a publisher with real momentum behind your studio massively improves the odds of your first project actually getting made and shipped. Well, first with this new studio. Getting back to Sony for a second, the company has also been making more moves of its own on the acquisition front, and this time it's picked up Cinemersive Labs. This one isn't directly about a game studio, but it could still have a real impact on games down the line. According to Sony, Cinemersive Labs bring expertise in computer vision and machine learning, and the company is known for technology that can turn a single photo into a volumetric 3D immersive experience. Their work has also been tied to things like MetaQuest, Apple Vision Pro, and immersive VR video. Sony says the goal here is to push visual computing forward and create richer, more immersive gameplay experiences. And honestly, I kind of thought the industry had cooled off on VR by now. But Sony didn't really say whether this is about a future VR, AR, or just better visual tech for standard games. So this could mean a lot of different things. Maybe it supports the future headset plans, or maybe it's just a way to strengthen Sony's tech stack for premium game development. Either way, it does feel like everyone is trying to define what next gen is going to look like before it officially arrives. And finally, we've got some actual movement on State of Decay 3. A recent video featuring the co-creator of the franchise gave us a small but welcome update. He said the team has been hard at work digging through players' feedback from the previous game, figuring out what worked, what didn't, and using that to shape State of Decay 3. They're also inviting people to sign up for the alpha playtest, which is probably the biggest takeaway here. He didn't reveal much else, but he did mention that alpha will include 4-player co-op, new base building and resource systems, and plenty of combat. And honestly, this is the first time in a while that State of Decay has started to feel like a real product, instead of just a title that exists on paper. For reference, it was announced back in 2020, briefly resurfaced in 2024, and since then it's mostly just been vague reassurances. So even though this update is small, it matters. At the very least, it shows that Undead Labs and Xbox are ready to let players get hands-on and start shaping the game early, which is probably the smart move if they want to avoid repeating old mistakes. And I have already signed up. Have you? And that's all I have for you today, friends. Let me know in the comments what do you think about all these handheld rumors, if you're looking forward to the new Lord of the Rings game, and if you signed up for the State of Decay 3 playtest. As usual, if you want to know more, all links are down below. And of course, clicking the like button helps this channel a lot, and I personally highly appreciate it. Thank you for making it this far, and with that, Alex is signing off for today. Cheers!